Hello, this is my response to Sarah's writer's tag video on her channel, The Library of Sarah, which was 10 questions she asked to people who enjoy writing. The first question is, what do you write? I write pretty much anything I feel like writing. If I have an idea for a poem or a haiku, I will just write it, and if I have an idea for what to do with characters I've created for either short stories or novels, if I have a new idea for them, I will try and sort of sit down and write it. And I've only in the past couple of years sort of focused more on longer pieces, like thinking of writing novels. Like for NaNoWriMo 3 years ago, and I just decided to have a go, and my idea was to write about a band from the 1960s who would start off as a rock band and then turn into a folk band or folk rock band. It was going to be the sort of way they went through that transformation, and sort of how they went from not being famous to being famous. But I I didn't get very far with that. I think I'm not sure how much I wrote for it, maybe between 5,000 and 10,000 words I got into it, and then I didn't sort of do very much more, and then I didn't do NaNoWriMo the next year. But the year after that, which was last November, I started writing a historical novel, and I'm still sort of playing with the characters from that and writing shorter stories about them, which I've been publishing on my journals online. Question number 2: what do you mostly write about? To be honest, I don't really think I have a mostly. Like I said, when I first did NaNoWriMo, I started writing about a band. Then when I did it a second time, I was writing an historical novel set in the Second World War on the occupied Channel Islands, which is I also quite like writing about sort of fantasy and science fiction, and just sort of, again, I'd say I'd write pretty much anything I feel like if the idea comes to me. Number 3: what is your favourite thing about writing? Being able to look back and seeing what I've ended up with in those sort of mad moments of scribbling that I've given myself over to. I like being able to look back and finding that I've written something that I would have liked to have read in the first place. So perhaps that's my favourite thing about writing. Question 4: what or who inspired you to start writing and keep writing? I suppose what I learnt about in school has definitely inspired me to write. Like even many years later, I've come back to poems I was told to memorise when I was 10. Sort of a prime example is in year 5 we were told to memorise The Listeners by Walter de la Mare, and I can still rattle it off pretty much word for word accurately. For a long time, what I loved writing about was old abandoned houses, which may or may not be haunted, and sort of figuring out what was more interesting, whether it was haunted or whether these old places were only haunted in the character's imagination. Even as far back as being 8 years old and the teacher reading us The Highwayman, you know, and the Highwayman still inspires me when I think about those sort of old romantic poems, and just sort of the narrative and the way it carries on and carries on. And when it comes to a halt, and you've got those moments of silence, they're terrifying, and you're so on edge, waiting to see what happens. And if I can write something myself that does that to me, and can do that to other people, that the idea of that is something that definitely keeps me writing. And just the fact that there's more stories out there. There's always going to be more stories. Although you reuse elements of things that inspire you as you live and you grow up. Of course you reuse them, but you try and twist them to your own sort of purposes, and just sort of, if I can do that and I can make stories that have come from my life and things that interest me, but they turn out really good, that's just the idea of that makes me want to